S&P 500 and Nasdaq hit record highs. Decker surges on UGG demand. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq have achieved unprecedented closing highs, a development that has sparked excitement among investors. This surge is largely attributed to the growing optimism surrounding a potential trade agreement between the United States and the European Union. Additionally, Deckers Outdoor, the company behind the popular UGG boots and Hoka sneakers, experienced a remarkable increase in its stock price, soaring by 11% after reporting quarterly results that exceeded expectations driven by robust demand in international markets. On the other hand, Intel faced a significant setback, with its stock plummeting by 8.5% following a forecast of larger than anticipated quarterly losses and an announcement of job cuts. This stark contrast in performance highlights the volatility present in the market. In recent weeks, Wall Street has been on an upward trajectory, reaching record highs fueled by positive quarterly earnings reports, successful trade negotiations with Japan and the Philippines, and the anticipation of further agreements from the U.S. House aimed at mitigating the elevated tariffs that President Trump has threatened. Thomas Martin, a senior portfolio manager at Global in Atlanta, expressed a cautious outlook, stating, "The market has been anticipating that the deals are going to get done. Personally, I have a bit more skepticism. You've got to be careful because if they don't get done, there is more room for disappointment than there is upside." The S&P 500 index rose by 0.40%, closing at 6,388.64 points, while the Nasdaq increased by 0.24% to reach 21,108.32 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average also saw a rise of 0.47%, finishing at 44,901.92 points. Notably, 9 out of the 11 S&P 500 sector indexes experienced gains, with materials sector leading the way with a 1.17% increase, followed closely by industrials, which rose by 0.98%. Over the course of the week, the S&P 500 climbed by 1.5%, the Nasdaq added 1%, and the Dow increased by 1.3%. Remarkably, the S&P 500 achieved a record closing high every day this week, a feat not seen since November 2021, according to Howard Silverblatt, a senior index analyst at S&P Dow Jones Indices. Looking ahead, investors are turning their attention to the U.S. Federal Reserve, with expectations that policymakers will maintain current interest rates during their meeting on Thursday. This decision comes as the central bank evaluates the impact of tariffs on inflation. According to CME's FedWatch tool, traders estimate a 60% likelihood of a rate cut in September. President Trump has indicated that he believes Fed Chair Jerome Powell may be inclined to lower rates following his earlier calls for the Fed to take action. In a contrasting development, Charter Communications saw its stock tumble by 18% after reporting a more significant loss of broadband subscribers than anticipated, a situation exacerbated by fierce competition from wireless carriers offering bundled high-speed internet services with 5G mobile plans. Meanwhile, Paramount Global stock dipped by 1.6% after U.S. regulators approved its $8.4 billion merger with Skydance Media. In a more positive light, health insurer Centene's shares rose by 6.1% after the company projected improved profitability in its government-backed healthcare insurance businesses by 2026. Analysts predict that S&P 500 companies will see an average increase of 7.7% in second quarter earnings year over year, with a significant portion of these gains expected to come from major technology firms. On the trading floor, advancing issues outnumbered declining ones within the S&P 500 by a ratio of 2-to-1, with the index recording 45 new highs and 6 new lows, while the Nasdaq noted 68 new highs and 54 new lows. Trading volume on U.S. exchanges was relatively light, with 17.7 billion shares changing hands, slightly below the average of 18.1 billion shares over the previous 20 sessions. As we reflect on these developments, it raises an important question. Are we witnessing a sustainable upward trend in the market, or are we on the brink of correction? What are your thoughts on the current state of the market? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments below. Stock market update. Dow and S&P 500 hits all-time highs July 25th. Stock market update, insights on the Dow and S&P for July 25th. Wall Street concluded the week on an optimistic note, with stock prices reaching new all-time highs, driven by robust earnings reports and positive expectations surrounding potential trade agreements in the United States. Following a rather uneventful discussion between Donald Trump and Jerome Powell, the Treasury market showed minimal movement, while the value of the dollar experienced an upward trend. As we approach a particularly busy week filled with corporate earnings announcements, the S&P 500 index has seen a continuous rise for the fifth consecutive day, nearing the significant milestone of 6,400. However, this rally has sparked worries about potentially inflated stock prices, especially as investors flock to riskier assets and the resurgence of meme stock enthusiasm captures attention. This phenomenon has led many to question whether the current market conditions are sustainable. Interestingly, a key indicator of market volatility, known as the VIX, closed below 15, suggesting a period of relative calm in the equity markets. But here's where it gets controversial. While many investors are riding the bullish wave, others are raising alarms about the risks associated with such a rapid ascent in stock prices. What do you think? Are we witnessing a healthy market rally? Or are we on the brink of a correction? Share your thoughts in the comments below.